1 or 2 weeks ago, I talked about several Fate character designs that looks really weird, and we desperately tried to come up with theories to explain them. There was Edison's lion head, which we connected to MGM lion, a Persian god, and even the blue bodysuit being inspired by the color of his film studio. Then there was Uchi Wakamaru's half-exposed armor, which actually started to make sense once we looked at it through the lens of history. I put a lot of work in that one video, so if you haven't seen it yet, go check it out. And today we're doing it again. Another weird Fate design, and instead of complaining about it, we're going to gaslight ourselves into believing it was actually genius all along. Let's start with Caesar. Yes, Gaius Julius Caesar. Now I actually like Caesar's design. Not like really like it, I just think it's fun. He looks ridiculous. And I think that creates a funny contrast with how serious and cunning he can be. Sure, a lot of people don't like how he looks, especially because of how, plus-sized he is. Honestly, I don't mind that part though. His outfit is actually pretty nice. Except for one thing that keeps tickling me. Why is he wearing a modern outfit? The man lived in the 1st century BC. Why would the illustrator even think to give him what looks like a modern dress shirt, complete with red necktie? At first, I honestly thought this was just one of those Fate designs where the priority was making the character memorable first and worrying about historical accuracy later. I mean, Caesar was a year 1 servant and the game had just launched, so I figured they were designing characters based on whatever looks cool at the time. If there was an explanation, I seriously doubt it was gonna be that deep. I mean, who would even question why a Roman general is wearing a dress shirt and a red necktie? But then I started looking at it from the perspective of Roman history. And surprisingly, I think there might actually be something here. You see, Roman soldiers were known to wear neck scarves called focale. They wear them to protect their necks from armor and friction. You can even see them depicted on Trojan's column, where Roman legionnaires are shown wearing scarves around their necks. Now, Julius Caesar himself isn't specifically known for wearing one. But considering he was a Roman general, I can imagine the illustrator taking the idea and modernizing it because, let's be honest, a Roman scarf and a modern dress shirt aren't exactly the easiest combo to pull off, so maybe they just swapped it for a necktie instead. So I guess that's the answer, it's a modernization of a focale into a necktie. So then, what about his shirt then? Maybe the reason he's wearing a modern shirt with a necktie instead of a scarf is because Caesar wasn't just a military commander. Remember, he was also a politician, or at least something very close to one in Roman history. He spent just as much time governing, negotiating, and shaping Rome as he did fighting in the battlefield. So maybe the illustrator wanted to portray him as both politician and a general by giving him a proper dress shirt while still keeping his military armor. This could even help explain his body. Because, politicians are often stereotyped that way, right? At least in the media. Historically and in lore, Caesar was said to be fairly slim during his lifetime. But for some reason, he was someone overweight instead. Even Cleopatra was surprised, and the story itself treated it as an anomaly in his summoning. It's a little weird, but I think it kinda works. Now, if we're talking about this man, obviously I'm not going to skip the most questionable things about him, right? Which is the giant marble hand in his final ascension. Like, what the hell is this? Now, to be honest, this one is a lot more abstract. I couldn't really find an answer that completely satisfied me. According to his profile, his disproportionately large hand is intentional. And the golden grace crown references the way later artists portrayed Caesar after he was deified and associated with his claimed descent from the goddess Venus. That part actually makes sense. I also watched Crazy Yuri's old video, and his theory was that the giant hand represent how Caesar became one of the most depicted figures in Roman history. Between the countless statues, sculptures, and his deification, the hand is meant to symbolize all that. But I gotta say, even after all that, it still feels incomplete, like it's not really that satisfying to hear. At least to me. So I come up with my own interpretation on top of what, everybody is saying. Now this is completely a theory, but there is a modern expression, the guiding hand of Rome. You ever heard of that, right? This phrase used to describe someone who leads or shapes Rome's future. And I think that exact expression could be what inspired the illustrator, or from the Lord's perspective, what shaped his giant hand into what it is today. However, I also found some documents suggesting that the guiding hand of Rome phrase isn't based solely on Caesar. It may also draw inspiration from 2 or 3 other historical figures, including Constantine. But if there is anyone who truly changed the course of Roman history, Julius Caesar is easily one of the strongest candidates. And since fate loves turning symbols, metaphors, and even later historical interpretation into literal parts of, a servant's body, I don't think it's impossible that the idea of the guiding hand of Rome could have found its way into Caesar's spirit origins instead. So my theory is simple. The giant marble hand is the result of blending Caesar's countless marble statues with the symbolism of the guiding hand of Rome. Though this might be wrong because this is just a theory, honestly, I think that's a pretty satisfying way to look at his design. Boy, that took a while to explain the genius behind Caesar's design. But next up is someone you guys probably like, or more accurately, someone Takeuchi likes. The next one is Artoria. Now hold on a minute, we're not talking about the regular Artoria here. The original one was perfect. It's still her iconic design, and even after all these years, it's just as good as it was back then. What we're talking about here is her Archer form, not the first one though. The first one is good. The second one is superb. I really like that one. It's actually the one that I always use in the game. But the third one, this one. Now you tell me, why is she wearing something like this? A crown that doesn't even fit her head, a one-piece swimsuit, which is nice, then she throws a freaking royal cape over it, and then high heels and ribbons. Lord, tell me I'm not the only one who's confused by this design. Now, if we're going to roast this summer design, I could honestly go on for 10 minutes straight. But we're here to make sense of it, right? Like, what was the inspiration behind this? What's the genius reason behind it? Sure, you could argue it's meant to mirror her original saber design, with the cape and the crown. But at the beach though, really? Now obviously, this design doesn't come from the original King Arthur legend because, there is no story where King Arthur walks around wearing a swimsuit, a royal cape, and high heels. At least not as far as I know. So then, what inspired this uniquely chosen outfit? I actually spent quite a bit of time trying to find the inspiration behind it because, to be honest, this design is way too broad. You can't really trace it back through Arthurian legend and history because there is simply no legend where King Arthur dresses like this. And her summer version isn't exactly helping either. Her whole theme is basically just taking water guns way too seriously. So I had to look outside the historical angle. So I figured maybe I was looking in the wrong place. I went through a bunch of discussion, read everything I could find, and spent way too much time crafting my own crack theories. And then I suddenly had a stupidly simple idea. Why not just ask Google what she looks like in real life? So I literally typed in everything she was wearing. The swimsuit, the cape, the crown, all the decorations, and Google answered, a beauty pageant. The screenshot here is in my native language, so you probably won't understand it, but you can still see the keywords. After that, I started browsing beauty pageant photos. I even searched specifically for ones with swimsuits. At first, nothing really stood out though, like, sure, some contestants wore one-piece swimsuits, some didn't, but none of them really clicked. Like, it's all just felt completely random. Like I was forcing a connection that wasn't actually there. Until I looked at the winners. And then I found the name Akiko Kojima. She was the very first Japanese winner of Miss Universe back in 1959. The competition was held in Long Beach, California, and when she was crowned the winner, she was wearing a blue one-piece swimsuit, a royal cape, and a crown. Now tell me that doesn't look like Artoria's design. That's actually crazy. This could genuinely have been one of the references behind Artoria's third ascension. This could be legit the actual answer. But then comes the bigger question. If that's true, then why? Why would the legendary King of Britain resemble Japan's first Miss Universe winner? Like, out of all the designs, why this one? Well, for this one, I might have a theory that this is some sort of expression of love or even a hidden message from the illustrator. Think about it. Who designed Artoria in the first place? Yep, we all know it, Takeuchi Takashi. And this guy loves Artoria like a lot, right? He throws her face on so many different characters that it's basically become a meme. People even joke that whenever he has free time, he just starts sketching Artoria again. And here is the important part. Considering Takeuchi is Japanese, maybe Japan's first Miss Universe winner represented the ideal woman to him. After all, she was the woman who put Japan on the map in the Miss Universe pageant. And if you win Miss Universe, you're not just considered beautiful, you're seen as the complete package. Elegant, confident, graceful, basically the perfect lady. And maybe that's the whole point. His own little way of saying, to me, Artoria is perfect. And what's the winner called? The Queen. It's exactly like her. Well, I mean, in Artoria case, it's king, but it's on the same level. Honestly, that kind of works, doesn't it? Now, of course, this is still just a theory, and I can't really rely on it too much. But I think it's much more interesting way to look at her design than simply saying it mirrors her original Third Ascension. Oh, and I almost forgot. I think there is another reason the developers were bold enough to give her such an out-of-place design in a water-themed summer event. It's because she can't swim. Well, to be more accurate, she doesn't actually need to swim. Thanks to her protection of the lake, she can literally walk on water. So even if she is wearing royal cape, high heels, and a crown, it doesn't really matter. She's not going to swim anyway. And maybe that's exactly why the designer felt comfortable giving her an outfit like this, even for a beach event. So I guess that's it. I guess that's the answer for her ridiculous design. Anyway, that's it for today's video. I'm sorry, it's just 2 characters for now. I'm definitely covering more in the future video. So click subscribe, share this video somewhere, and I'll see you guys next time.